Hey girlfriend, this is Jan James. Welcome to the Hope After Breast Cancer podcast, where women who have endured breast cancer learn to have fulfillment over frustration, clarity over confusion, and faith over fear. We tackle the issues that many of our sisters face after a breast cancer diagnosis, from brain fog to fear of recurrence, from menopause to sex after breast cancer. This is the place to learn how to have hope after breast cancer. So strap yourself in. Welcome to the Hope After Breast Cancer podcast. Hi everyone, it's Jan with Hope After Breast Cancer, and I've got a real treat for you guys today. I want you to meet my friends Shell and Jayne. Hi guys.
Hi Jan.
They're calling from Canada, and they are naturopathic doctors. So let me tell you a little bit about them. Jayne and Shelly are naturopathic doctors who bonded while becoming doctors because they were similar in many ways, and because they both had young children during what can only be described as a grueling education. They also both have a love of horses and the courage to live on a horse farm. Jayne went on to be a homeopathic doctor as well. Together, they decided to start a podcast after discussing shared visions and the experiences Shell was having after being diagnosed with breast cancer. The Empowered Health podcast, and that's empowered with an I-N, Empowered Health podcast is about empowerment to remind us that we are the master of our own lives. It's about heart, mind, body medicine, which includes homeopathy, shamanism, meditation, and so much more. It's meant to unite us and encourage us to learn about the many powerful tools at our disposal, to remind us that we're unique and our path to healing and wholeness is unique as well. It's for all to become whole and empowered. It is dedicated to our sisters with breast cancer who we wish to reach a hand out to and offer this amazing knowledge from across the globe. Thanks again, guys, for joining us here on Hope After Breast Cancer. We're so glad to have you.
It's great to be here, Jan.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. And so I will tell you where I am coming from. We talked a little bit prior to this about, I have somewhat of a blank slate about the naturopathic medicine. And so in the 8 years that I have been serving women in the Pink Sister community, many of them have visited naturopaths, and I hear, oh, I'm going to get a vitamin C infusion, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, but I don't personally have the experience. So would you guys be able to give us just a brief primer on naturopathic medicine and overview?
I would love to answer that question, Jan. So naturopathic medicine is, we're licensed as primary care physicians. And what does that mean? So a primary care physician is a licensed doctor that's able to give a diagnosis. So we have the same training as medical doctors in terms of doing a proper physical exam, looking at blood work, looking at imaging results, putting all of those pieces together and coming up with a diagnosis. Where we're a little bit different is we do study pharmacology. So in some states and provinces, naturopathic doctors are able to write certain prescription drugs. But in general, naturopathic doctors use a variety of modalities, such as clinical nutrition, which is using vitamins, using antioxidants, using minerals, detoxification. Traditional Chinese medicine, there's over 400 healing points on the body that we stimulate with acupuncture needles and use Chinese herbs. Botanical and herbal medicine, which is the foundation of where pharmacology was born. Manipulation, which is chiropractic medicine, adjusting the spine. Hydrotherapy, the application of using hot and cold water to bring healing blood to tissues and cells. And homeopathy, which is an energetic type of medicine that is based on the principle of like cures like, which Jayne will discuss more, being a homeopath as well as a naturopathic doctor. And lastly, we also study mind-body counseling. So that takes us into many different types of approaches, but it's essentially based on the idea that what we think about, we bring about, not just in our actual lives, but also into our biochemical lives. So our thoughts have a huge influence on how well our body functions. So we also use that tool to help people get the most out of their bodies by learning a different way of thinking and being within their lives.
Oh, that's a great, great explanation. Thank you so much for that. And I hadn't thought about, you know, when I say I haven't seen a naturopathic doctor, I've been a fan of chiropractic for many years. I've done acupuncture, so I guess I have gone down the naturopathic route. So with your explanation, I appreciate that. So that's great. Hey, Jayne, can you tell us a little bit more about homeopathy?
Yeah, and I just wanted to add that the reason we bonded was because it is a grueling degree over 4 years, studying everything you need to be a doctor, plus all of that. So yeah, it's really something. But yeah, I became a homeopath because when I discovered homeopathy at naturopathic school, which was one of the things that we study, it really called to me because I'd always understood that, you know, our heart, our mind, our body is inseparable, and how we think will definitely eventually cause disease if we're constantly in stress or, you know, fight or flight.
Mhm.
And, you know, I studied Bruce Lipton when I was a teenager and just understood that the cascade from the mind to the body was, you know, uh, hugely important. So when I learned about homeopathy, it was the one medicine that we learned that took into consideration all the mind symptoms as well as the physical symptoms and emotional symptoms as well. And when you take all of those things into consideration, you come up with one, what we call a constitutional remedy that matches the person uniquely. And you give something that exists on earth in a homeopathic form, and that's what, you know, you treat your patient with. So I went to India when I was in my second year and became just in love with this medicine, and I've studied it ever since.
When
So
you say that the remedy is in a homeopathic form, what does that mean?
we take something that exists on earth, and there's thousands of remedies made from plants, trees, weeds, grasses, animal remedies from milks, insect remedies, snake remedies, and it's built on the foundation that like cures like, first of all, but also we take these things and reduce them to a point that is energetic almost. We know now that it's nanoparticles, and we know through science that as it's reduced in water, it actually becomes stronger or more potent. And we've recently done a podcast with Carl Moore who explains that beautifully. But it's reduced to the point of nano and just placed on, so it can do no harm. So if you're giving something that's, you know, plant, but even if you're giving something like belladonna, that's a poisonous plant, it's reduced to the point where it can do no harm in the body, but it sends a message that is like cures like. So like belladonna can, if taken in its crude form, it can cause a lot of redness and dilated pupils and heat. And so if you give it to someone who has a fever with dilated pupils, it actually cures the physical symptoms. So it can help high fevers and that kind of thing. So it's an incredibly fascinating.
That is amazing. You know, I would share just a little personal story. I had heard from a bunch of Pink Sisters that they had been using acupuncture successfully. And I was coming from, at that point, a place of kind of traditional medicine. I was just straight ahead traditional medicine and Western medicine, I would say, right? And I was taught as a child, you know, listen to the doctors, do what the doctors say, you know, that kind of thing. So I had that tape running in my head. And then all of these girls had been talking about how acupuncture had helped them so much. And I had to come to the place of understanding that this is a big bad world. And I know a thimbleful of what's available. And there are so many other solutions out there that I don't know about. And so I just had to get out of my own way in order to start doing acupuncture. And so do you find that with a lot of your patients? Do you find that they've come with some walls up, in essence?
You know, we probably both have different answers to that. I'll go first on that one, Jayne. But in the beginning of my practice, I felt like I had to explain naturopathic medicine a little bit more, which I always found really enjoyable, because when I first came to naturopathic medicine, I had lymphoma and I didn't know anything about naturopathic medicine. And I too was just very curious and very inquisitive and wanting to get myself better, but didn't know very much. So I'm always happy to, you know, educate people on naturopathic medicine, educate people on how their bodies work, let them know that the biochemistry of our bodies requires certain vitamins and minerals to do our biochemical reactions, and how those processes can be limited if we don't have a good diet, etc. So I found people were just eager to learn and open to breaking through some of these paradigms, like you were saying, of, you know, this is the only way you can heal.
Yeah, and for me, I use naturopathic medicine as well, always. But I always start with my patients explaining that the mind has such a control over our physical, that if we've gone through something traumatic, even in childhood, that there's a circuit there, and that it plays constantly in the subconscious mind, or can get triggered very easily, and that eventually is connected to our physical, because a lot of our physical is automatic in nature. Like, we don't tell our heart when to beat, we don't tell our hormones when to go out, we don't tell a cut how to heal. It just happens automatically. So a lot of this subconscious information is in the same side as the automatic responses. So I explain this, and I explain how our mind is so powerful that what I'd like to do is take a homeopathic case first, heal what circuit needs to be healed, heal the trauma, see how far that heals the physical, and then, go from there with naturopathic medicine. But that's my approach, because of the way I've become so passionate about homeopathy. But most people, 90%, there's always 10% that say, no, can you just do this? But most say, no, sign on the dotted line. I know exactly when this started. I had this trauma then, and from then on, I have had this physical. So I know that I need to heal that, like a lot of people really connect the dots. So,
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
No, that's great. Hey, Shell, is it okay if we talk a little bit about where you're at? I know that you're a breast cancer fighter and that you are currently stage 4. And so I serve a tremendous amount of girls with chronic cancer. So I was wondering, how does naturopathic medicine play into your treatment plan?
Oh, that's such a good question. And hi, all my pink sisters, sending you lots of love and blessings. I was diagnosed with my cancer situation is a bit interesting, only in the sense that I was diagnosed with lymphoma as a 19-year-old. And in that process of radiation and chemotherapy, I had a lot of radiation. This was, 30 years ago. So I had a lot of radiation to my head and neck and chest area. And I think things have become a little bit different in the radiation world these days, but it left me with a lot of side effects. So even with my naturopathic training, I developed a large goiter from this radiation that I had to have surgically removed. And then in 2017, I was diagnosed with bilateral breast cancer. which is also, as you know, very unlikely. And it was a result of the radiation that I had gone through. And so my journey of finding out that I had stage 4 now here in January of 2020, I have to say I was more than devastated. I really never thought I would be in a situation with cancer that I'm in. My heart goes out to everyone, and it really inspired Jayne and I to do this podcast because for the first time in my life, I was told, and you won't get better. And I just thought that those words, that diagnosis was so hard on me. And I thought, it's got to be this hard on everyone else. I have a beautiful life that I'm passionate about living. I have a beautiful daughter that I'm passionate about seeing, become an adult and journey with her life. So once I got over the really devastating news, I thought, similar to you, Jan, this is happening to me for my highest good. I believe in a God that loves me. I've always tried to make lemonade out of the lemons that I've been given. And we started this podcast. And for me too, like, even though I'm a naturopathic doctor and I've spent, the last 30 years of my life learning about natural medicine and allopathic medicine, I have learned so much doing this podcast. I have, learned to open my mind to shamanism, which I got involved in last year, hypnotherapy. Jayne's been really teaching me through Divya Shambra about, accessing this subconscious mind, this unconscious mind. And I realized that, even though some people would consider me an expert in natural healthcare, there's still so much to learn. And, our first principle in naturopathic medicine is doctor, heal thyself. And so, even though I may have the title doctor, I'm still very much a patient. I'm still, having to go through this very large learning scale of what is going to get my mind, body, spirit well.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that's always been giving to other people. And now I have, kind of turned the tables and I'm actually receiving a lot from people, which is new for me. And I think it's part of my healing journey.
Isn't it true? I find that with a lot of people that are givers that it's hard for us to receive. I'm in that boat as well. But when you open that door, there's some real power and beauty in that for sure. So appreciate you saying that. Hey, you talked to me a little bit earlier about so many of the girls that were diagnosed as ER positive are on aromatase inhibitors. And I didn't know this, but you said that there are some natural ways to help boost the AIs and keep the bad estrogen away. Can you just give us a rundown quickly on that?
Absolutely. So many of us are on aromatase inhibitors as well that are postmenopausal. So these aromatase inhibitors, what they're doing is they're not allowing the adrenals to make estrogen. So postmenopausal women, their ovaries are no longer making very much estrogen. And then the aromatase inhibitors shut down the fat cells and the adrenals that are making estrogen. So natural aromatase inhibitors are vitamin D, melatonin, zinc, and selenium. And in terms of removing these estrogens, like not becoming estrogen dominant so that the breast cells are not stimulated, the breast cancer isn't stimulated, we use magnesium, which helps conjugate estrogens in the body and send them through the bowel. And we also use our liver-loving herbs and antioxidants, which are milk thistle, dandelion, NAC, alpha-lipoic acid. We encourage women to reduce exogenous estrogen, which is there's a lot of hormones put into animal meat now. There's a lot of hormones in dairy. So these hormones that we're eating, exogenous forms of hormones, they're similar enough that they can trigger our own estrogen receptor as if we had estrogen. So, limiting animal product, limiting plastics, limiting pesticides, limiting chemicals to clean with. All of these things can help reduce our exogenous estrogen load,
Mm-hmm.
which can trigger our own estrogen receptors. So, there's a lot of natural, detoxification. We use a lot of SEAC tea. SEAC tea has been proven to heal cancer in stage 4. So it's a tea that was created by the Aboriginal people here in Ontario. It consists of 4 herbs. It's very powerful in cleansing. It's an ulcerative, liver-loving formula. An ulcerative means it's blood and lymphatic cleansing and liver cleansing. So allowing the body to release these estrogens. And we also use an herb called Vitex, which is a very intelligent herb because it has the ability to balance estrogen and progesterone no matter what the condition may be. So we use it for women who are not getting their period, who want their period, and we also use it for women with breast cancer because it has this ability to harmonize, to balance our bodies. So there's many things that we use as naturopathic doctors to help stimulate the immune system also, because the immune system is our own body's way of eliminating anything that threatens our survival. Our immune system is this innate, intelligent system that, keeps pathogens and illnesses and cancer cells out of our bodies. So we use a lot of medicine like astragalus, echinacea, golden seal, adaptogens like ginsengs. We use a lot of Siberian ginseng, maca, Peruvian ginseng, which is maca. We use a lot of ginsengs, which really help the body release our immune system cells. And so we approach it in the sense that we want to give the body everything that it needs to thrive and overcome the cancer cells. We would never, Jayne and I would never say to a patient, you cannot cure this. We're very, we're very hardcore about our naturopathic medicine and our beliefs
and how much it affects the body.
Everybody's life has a plan, and I know we're all on our own journey, but we do believe fundamentally that the body can heal itself given the right ingredients, and that includes mind and spirit too.
And to leave no rock unturned, to, like, if you do have this kind of diagnosis, you have to do everything that feels right to you. It's a unique path to each person, but look after the mind, lay on the earth, take your vitamins, take your herbs, take your homeopathy, like everything you need to do. So that's why we started the podcast too, just an arsenal of what you could do,
That's awesome. Yeah, there's so much we don't know, and we've really got to understand that. So we're on a search for solutions here. So thank you guys so much for being with us today. Can you tell us how people can reach you and tell us a little bit about where they can get the podcast?
Go ahead.
So our podcast is called Empowered Health. And Jan, you did a great job with that. It's IN, health is an inside job. And you can find that on Spotify, iTunes, Facebook, Anchor.
And we're going to have a website, empoweredhealth.com. So, yes.
Very good. Good. Thank you guys so much for being here today. We are so grateful that you're contributors to Hope After Breast Cancer. Looking forward to talking to you more about potential solutions for some of our women, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thank you, Jan.
Take care, guys. Girlfriend, thank you so much for listening to our podcast. I hope you found some nuggets to encourage you and give you hope. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast. You never want to miss an episode, and we'd love to know how we're doing, so please be sure to leave us a review. Until next time, this is Jan James encouraging you to remember there is hope after breast cancer. See you next time.